So, you found a home that you actually like and signed a purchase contract, but now you're wondering, can I actually back out of this? Whether it's cold feet, a financing issue, or you just changed your mind, this is something that a lot of buyers worry about, but the answers aren't always that simple. So, today I'm breaking it down. When can you walk away from a deal in Alberta? When can't you? And what might it cost you to do so? If you're buying in Calgary or anywhere in Alberta, this is information that you definitely need to know, so let's get into it. Okay, so you found a place, you wrote an offer, and it's been accepted. So let's just hit pause for a moment and talk about what actually just happened. So in Alberta, once both the buyer and the seller have signed the purchase contract, you're legally bound by the terms of that contract. This isn't just a handshake, this is a legally binding agreement under Alberta law. What's most important to understand is that this contract will likely include conditions, also known as subject to clauses. These are essentially escape hatches that allow you to make sure that everything's lined up before you agree to proceed with the purchase of the home. So here's a breakdown of the most common conditions that you're likely to see on an Alberta purchase contract. Number one would be a financing condition. You get a certain number of days to confirm that your mortgage is fully approved for that property. Number two would be the home inspection condition. You get to bring in a professional to take a look at the property and make sure all of the home systems are in functioning condition. Number three would be the sale of the buyer's home. Now, if you need to sell your property first, this condition would give you that safety net. And four would be condo document review. In a condo purchase, you may want to go through or have a professional go through the condo documents to ensure that everything is in order. Now, these conditions protect you. So if one of them isn't met, you can back out of the purchase and get your deposit back. However, and this is very important, once you have waived conditions, you are now fully committed to that transaction. At that point, walking away means being in breach of contract, and we'll talk more about what that means in a little bit. So let's say things aren't going as planned. The home inspection revealed something scary, or the condo doc minutes are full of red flags. This is exactly why conditions exist. If you're still in the condition phase, there are totally legitimate reasons for you to walk away. So let's discuss a few of these in a little bit more detail. So let's say the financing falls through. Now this one happens more often than people think. So maybe you're pre-approved for a certain amount, but when the lender takes a look at the property, they reject it due to age or condition. If you have a financing condition, you can walk away. Just make sure that your realtor documents everything in writing and notifies the seller before the condition day. So what about the inspection? Let's say the home inspector goes through the home and finds out that there's some mold or perhaps a foundation crack that wasn't disclosed. If you have an inspection condition, you can either try to renegotiate or you can walk away altogether. The key is to act before the condition deadline. If you're buying a condo in Alberta, you are legally entitled to take a look at the condo documents under the Condominium Property Act. So you, or better yet, a professional condo doc reviewer, take a look at the docs and find out that the reserve fund is in poor shape or there's a major special assessment pending. If you have a condominium document review condition, you can walk away, again, provided that you do so within the condition period. The common thread in all this is that these aren't just cold feet, these are legitimate reasons to stop a deal from proceeding. The key is that the problem must be tied to a condition that is actually written into the contract and that you act prior to the deadline. Okay, so now let's talk about a less fun scenario. You've removed all conditions and now you're locked in, but now you've changed your mind. Maybe you found a better home, maybe you're panicking about the monthly payments, or maybe you just woke up this morning and thought this is going to be a huge mistake. At this point, you're committed. You've entered into a legally binding contract with the seller, and if you decide to walk away at this point, it's called breach of contract. So what happens now? Well, you'll likely lose your deposit, which could be around $5,000 to $10,000, whatever you actually wrote down in the purchase contract. And worst case scenario, the seller could sue you. If they end up selling the home for less money, or if they face a delay that costs them financially, the seller can sue you for damages. Now, in the vast majority of circumstances, most sellers are not going to want to go to court, but they can, and that is reason enough for you to be absolutely certain before you commit. Now, if this does happen to you, make sure that you are in communication with your realtor and that you speak to your real estate attorney immediately. Don't just ghost and try to walk away from the deal. This only makes things worse. At this point, you want to rely on the advice of your realtor and especially your real estate attorney to ensure that you can be kept safe. Now, there are some weird edge cases, gray areas where you technically could still pull out even after conditions have been waived. Now, they're not common, but they do happen. For instance, let's say the seller agreed to fix the roof or include appliances, and they don't. Or they leave the house in terrible shape, completely full of junk after possession. In some cases, this can be considered a breach of contract on behalf of the seller, in which case you could renegotiate or pull out depending on the situation. Material latent defects are another big one. If you discover a major defect, something that the seller knew about but didn't disclose, you may have grounds to cancel the contract. This would include things like major structural issues, toxic mold, or past flooding that wasn't visible at the time of the purchase. And under Alberta law, sellers have a duty to disclose any material latent defects that they are aware of. Another possibility would be any kind of title issues. If something problematic shows up on the land title, like say an unremovable lien, you may be able to pull out of the contract depending on the terms of that particular contract. Now, all of these situations are highly specific and will likely require some legal advice. So if something like this pops up, don't assume that you're stuck, but don't assume that you can walk away either. Ensure that you speak to an attorney who's familiar with real estate law before you do anything. So, can you back out of a home purchase contract in Alberta? Well, sometimes yes, and sometimes no. If you're early in the process and still protected by conditions, you've definitely got options, but by the time you've waived conditions, you need to be fully committed. So if you're thinking of buying, definitely don't rush it. Make sure that you understand every part of the contract, that you lean on professionals, and that you never feel pressured to waive conditions before you're ready. So if you found this helpful, I've got more details about this topic on my blog. The link is in the description below. I dive deeper into the details there, so check it out if you'd like a little bit more information. As always, please like and subscribe for more Calgary real estate tips, and I'll see you in the next one.